Welcome to another Boyish Rant. Recent findings by the NHS digital figures show that a total of 70.9 million antidepressants were dispensed in England in 2018. And for context, that's double the amount of prescriptions dispensed 10 years ago, for conditions like depression, anxiety, several mental health disorders. Now, while antidepressants have played an important role for some patients, it's best we avoid the attitude of like one pill for every ill. We're not America. Doctors certainly don't want patients relying on medication, and it may not be the best thing for the patient in that scenario either, depending on what their situation is. Where possible, a doctor's going to suggest alternative treatments such as CBT, like cognitive behavior therapy, talking therapies, group counseling. But there's one treatment that they're being forced to leave out: the herb. Now, the law in the UK has marijuana categorised as a Class B drug, meaning it's illegal to possess, and if you're found with intent to supply, you can face up to 14-year jail sentence or, and this is the exact wording here, an unlimited fine. Marijuana also contains something called cannabinoid. Probably saying that wrong, but it's CBD, so I'm just going to say that from now on because I'm a lazy stoner. CBD is shown to have promising results reducing seizures in children with severe epilepsy. Now, the debate on medicinal legalisation was reignited recently when the mother of Billy Caldwell was stopped on a return to the UK from Canada, where she attempted to buy CBD oil for her 12-year-old son, who suffers with severe seizures from epilepsy. Now, naturally, customs confiscate the CBD oil from her. The Caldwell family then informed everybody that Billy had been immediately admitted back to hospital as his seizures had intensified. Luckily, this issue was resolved, thankfully, with the family achieving a license so that son can focus on being a kid again, receive the treatment that he needs. But Das Ganja has other uses too. Now, I've got to give you a bit of background on me for this. I was diagnosed as bipolar almost 8 years ago now. With the collective experience and knowledge that I have now, it's more like bog standard cyclothymia. Bog standard. I was given sertraline hydrochloride, which is kind of like a standard antidepressant administered for those kind of disorders by the NHS, for 6 months whilst I received counselling. A cognitive behavior therapist would come to my residence every week and talk to me and give me therapy and help me through that. After not having too much of a reaction to that, I was given lithium, which I took for 5.5 years. During a particularly bad breakup, I decided to change dramatically. So against the best efforts of my doctor and therapist at the time, I went cold turkey and completely cut out lithium, which is not an easy thing to do, and it's not advised medically. Cutting out lithium was important for me. I've always described lithium as kind of keeps you in the grey area. So you're never going to get those sort of crazy high emotions, you're never going to get those crazy low emotions alternatively. But you kind of just live in this grey area. And it's not too enjoyable. I can't say I don't recommend it, because at the time that was the only thing that kept me functional and actually kept me going and managed to turn me onto the right path. But it's not easily given out and it's not easily taken. But let's talk about medicinal legalisation. Now, recent polls show 47% of people in the UK that support medicinal marijuana legalisation and licensed shops. Now, among those aged 18 to 44, that figure rises to 52% of the British public, which means that old people aren't getting with the programme. Get with it, you old bastards, it'll help with your arthritic bodies. Now, the Institute for Social and Economic Research estimates a regulated cannabis market could bring in between 400 million and 871 million a year from England and Wales alone. Factor in savings to the justice system and we're up to 1.25 billion a year. Now, there is data and evidence from established cannabis markets that show that it could be even higher than that. If you took the Colorado or the Washington model and introduced it in the UK, you're looking at about 2.26 billion a year in tax revenue. That's fucking more than enough to plug the 2 billion deficit in the NHS this year. There's also a recent study from the Journal of Scientific Reports that shows that marijuana is 114 times safer than alcohol. In areas of legalisation, crime has fallen by an average of 15% and murder has fallen by 50%. You're going to get stoned and start fighting in an alley, a real slow fight. Legalisation and regulation in the UK will create thousands of jobs in that kind of industry. Also, that 2.26 billion a year could come in handy if Brexit continues to hang around like some kind of tumour, occasionally spiking in aggravation and despair, to work as a constant reminder of what we've done to ourselves. Now, before I sign off, I wanted to mention that I do believe in natural alternative treatments before prescribing medication. Like I say, lithium may have worked for me. It may not work for everybody. There are these kind of genetic testings where they can do nowadays, where you can kind of see which medication you would react better to and which you would be better for you to stay away from. But with so many things, there's a long road ahead and a lot of dialogue that needs to be had. You know what helps dialogue? Jar weed.